Hi, I'm Pastor Eric from Trinity Lutheran Church, and I want to welcome you to Gospel Connections, where we'll explore a theme from this past Sunday's worship service a little deeper and see how it connects to each of our lives. During this past Sunday, we explored Transfiguration, where Jesus, the light of the world, shone brightly, so bright that it was blinding to the disciples. And we recognize that we have those own mountaintop moments in each of our lives. And sometimes we don't realize it right away. However, later on, when we reflect upon it, we realize that God's light was shining bright the whole time and helping us navigate our pathways through the valleys and the difficult times that we may be traversing. So I invite you on your own and to listen to my reflection today about a time in my life when I realized it was a mountaintop moment. And in reality, at that time, I thought I was on the bottom of a valley. But Jesus' light shone bright. And I'll explain that. As I recognize over a year ago, it was a time of transition for myself and my family as we were trying to figure out where we were going next, where we were going to be moving, what synod we would be assigned to, and where would the Holy Spirit lead us to be a part of a ministry. What congregation would we be a part of? What town and what region? There's a lot of unknowns. What was the timing going to be like? And if you realize it was over a year ago, so meaning it was before the pandemic. So it was before all of those unknowns, but regardless, there was a lot of unknowns in our lives, and we were trying to figure out our next steps. So I found myself talking in a prayer garden with a good friend of mine as we were discussing the possibilities that lay before me and my family. And as we traversed down this hill towards this prayer garden, which I'm going to show you a picture of here in a moment, we realized that this prayer garden was neglected for years. Prior, it was always weeded and had fresh flowers planted, and it always had this cross in the center of it. But after years of neglect, despite that, we decided to meet at this congregation's prayer garden. It wasn't a congregation that either of us attended, but we recognized that this place existed. So we decided to meet on a park bench in this prayer garden and talk about, where was God present in my life? Where was God leading me during this time of uncertainty, knowing that we would have a destination at some point and be taken care of in a way that was on God's time. Nevertheless, lots of things and lots of interviews were ahead of me, regardless if that was with my synod or my seminary. And so we sat there, and all of a sudden, what you see here pictured happened. As you can see, and I'll describe from top to bottom, there's the old prayer garden where all of these weeds, unwanted flowers just took over. And you notice that they're surrounded in a tree grove. And here in the center of the picture is this cross. And that cross is the one piece that remained the same. Despite the walking path being with gravel and weeds, or all of the flower beds being taken over by weeds, the one thing that remained the same every time we met there was this cross in the center. Well, as we sat down to begin meeting and having a discussion to catch up, we realized that the sun was pointing through. And it pointed through exactly at the intersection of the cross in the middle of this garden. And as I look back on it now, because I had this picture was taken and was sent to me months later, is despite all of the uncertainty, despite not knowing where we would go next, despite not being able to answer those questions to my family of what synod we would be assigned to, what region would we be assigned to, where would we move, what would be the name of the congregation, what would the community be like, what would the school be like, in all of these unknowns, in reality, the bright light of Jesus was shining through the center of that cross and illuminating the path the whole entire time. So this mountaintop experience that I realized at the time and then moved on through and past, but when I received this picture, it reminded me of how important that mountaintop experience was. Because in reality, Jesus' light shone through all of the challenging times that we faced as the pandemic started, and it kind of stalled the process for us. But in reality, that light, that bright light, shone exactly where we needed to be and where we needed to move. And that's here at Trinity. That bright light and the Holy Spirit led us here to Pelican Rapids, where our family has embraced this community, this school, and most importantly, this congregation. So I invite you to take a moment to think back through this past year or beyond. Where was a mountaintop moment for you that maybe you didn't recognize or haven't thought about in a while, and how that can provide you a nourishment for your faith, a nourishment along a pathway that may be difficult, because in reality, that light of Jesus is always shining bright and helps guide us through any challenge we may face. Well, I look forward to catching up next week during Gospel Connections as we reflect on this coming Sunday's service. And I wish you all the best until then. God bless.